Hello everyone. This is the first lecture of a series of lectures that will deal with the subject of the novel for the third stage students, presented by lecturer Dr. Hussein العسكري. So please pay attention. Before we begin with the lecture, I'm going to give you a very short introduction about this course. This course is dealing with the readings and analysis of the English novel. Two novels were selected for this course. So the first one is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. So I prefer to give you a very short introduction about this novel, the author, the social, political, cultural situation when this novel was written. So, The Lord of the Flies is a novel by William Golding. It was published in 1954. The book explores the dark side of human nature and stresses the importance of reason and intelligence as tools for dealing with chaos of existence. So this is a very short summary of the novel. The theme of the novel deals with the human nature. So from the beginning, we know that the theme of the novel is universal, and it can be applied in every situation and every time and every place. The novel deals with a very important aspect of human being. It deals with goodness and evil in a human being. A very big question is posed by the author is what is goodness and what is evil, and when and where they manifest themselves in human beings. So let us move to the other side. This is a film produced during the 90s of the novel. So, in the novel, children are evacuated from Britain because of a nuclear war. One airplane with adults and a prep school boys as passengers crashes on an uninhabited island, and all the adults are killed. As the boys fashion their own society, their attempts at establishing a social order gradually devolve into savagery. Finally, abandoning all moral constraints, the boys commit murder before they are rescued and returned to civilization. Actually, this is a very good and very to the point summary of the whole novel. So we have a group of children who are put into a fictional island, tropical island. The author makes an experiment of what children would do if they are left unattended by adults, left alone, and what would they do? Actually, the answer to this question differs and varies greatly, because on one hand we have an attempt to build a society based on order as manifests itself by Ralph and his helpers. Whereas, on the other hand, we have a society, a very savage tribe, headed by Jack Merido and his helpers, assistants, who involve themselves in killing and hunting and imposed the dogma of that tribal savage society. So the answer actually to this question imposed by the author is not clear and not finalized even in the very end of the novel. So let us talk about the author of this novel, William Golding. William Golding was born in September 1911 in Cornwall, England, and died in June 1993. Golding is an English novelist who has won the Nobel Prize for Literature. You know, the Nobel Prize is the most prestigious prizes of all, and he was known for writing parables. I have underlined this word, parables, to be discussed later. He was educated in Barnes College in Oxford. Golding graduated in 1935 and became a master at Bishop Wordsworth School, Salisbury. He joined the Royal Navy in 1940. After the war, he returned to teaching and remained in that profession until 1960. Actually, I always tell my students that it is very crucial to know the biography of the author, because whether he was intending it or not, a very great part of his life is shed on the writings and on his works in general. So much of the novel is actually extracted directly from his life. How do we know that? First, because he's a teacher, he has a very good access to the psychology or the psyche of the children. This is why he was knowledgeable of how children think, how the children behave, whether attended or not, and even their jargon, even the language is special for the children. I mean school children, school boys, in the ages from 6 to 12. So, being a school teacher and even a headmaster is one of the aspects to understanding the psyche and the thinking and even the behavior of children. Hence, the novel succeeds in convincing the reader of the boys. It means it gives us a lifelike children with very precise behavior and knowledge. Also, another point is his experience with the Royal Navy during the war, I mean Second World War, made him knowledgeable of the warfare and so on. So let us move to the other point, which is the political situation during the 50s. You know, the novel was written during the 50s, and I will give a very short and summarize the situation during the 50s in the West. The novel was written in the backdrop of the so-called the Cold War. The Cold War is a struggle over political differences as of two nations, carried on by methods of short war and usually without breaking of diplomatic relations. The Cold War refers to the period immediately after the Second World War. The major belligerents were the USSR, or the Soviet Union, and its allies against the United States and its allies. The Cold War peaked during the 50s and the 60s, when both parties threatened to use the nuclear weapons against the enemy. There was a great sense of uncertainty, and the people were unable to ensure their own lives. So this novel was written when the war was living on the wake of the Second World War and a very imminent war that might break up at any moment between the two big powers, the USSR and the United States. So there was newly introduced weapons of mass destruction. The two bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan proved that the life of humans have become very vulnerable, and at any moment a mass slaughter of human beings might happen. Now the last point is that usually the novel is categorized as an allegory or a fable, or even we can say it is a parable. So what is an allegory? Allegory is more or less symbolic fictional narrative that conveys a secondary meaning or meanings, not explicitly set forth in the literal narrative. It encompasses such forms as fable, parable, and apologue, and may involve either a literary or interpretive process. This means that the novel has a message. You know, every work of art actually have an analogy. I mean, all the works of art have a message. The message in this novel is not conveyed directly. There is an outside story that looks very simple. It usually involves animals or children or abstract forms, but the meaning is very deep. Although the language is simple and the characters are children, are not adult enough, but the meaning is very deep, and it is usually read through reading between the lines. So this is a map of the two big powers, and that includes the situation in the 50s and afterwards. This is the Cold War, and this is the nuclear powers, nuclear weapons that were available to the warring parties during the Cold War. So, you know, these are the capacity of destruction of the nuclear power. Thank you, and see you on other lectures.